Like many Canadians, I'm proud to live in a country where we have universal health care. But I also know that our system is not perfect.
And here's your roundup of the party leaders on day 13 of this election campaign. Liberal leader Justin Trudeau was in Ontario promising more money for health care. He started the day in Hamilton before visiting local businesses in Stoney Creek. He finished the day with a stop in Niagara Falls. The CBC's Salima Shivji has more on the announcement he made earlier today. Salima?
Vashi, this is the second big promise from the Liberal campaign here in this part of Ontario. Yesterday, it was a tax cut and cutting cell phone bills. Today, it's a promise to work towards some sort of national Pharmacare program, a promise that is rather vague on the details. First off, the money that the Liberals would devote to this is $6 billion over the next 4 years, but it includes not only steps towards Pharmacare, but also ensuring that Canadians have better access to a family doctor, to mental health care services, and to home care. So big promises, leaving lots of questions. First off, on costing, the Parliamentary Budget Officer has estimated that a national Pharmacare program would cost $19 billion a year. Here we're only talking about $6 billion over 4, and it's steps to implementing it. Also, it is clear that this would include major, tough negotiations with the provinces over what this could look like. When asked about how Justin Trudeau would do that, Justin Trudeau had this message to say over and over again.
Who do you want standing up for you? Who do you want negotiating with Doug Ford when it comes to your health care?
In fact, Justin Trudeau mentioned Doug Ford some 15 times in that news conference, and that's because it fits right into his message track that this election is about a choice between his party and the unpopular Ontario Premier that Trudeau is trying to link with Conservative Leader Andrew Scheer. He's surely hoping that that message will obscure the fact that a string of his policy announcements are rather short on concrete details. Vashi?
Thanks, Salima. That's Salima Shivji covering the Liberal campaign this week. The NDP is also making a Pharmacare promise.
For those families who didn't have access to coverage, this will mean thousands of dollars in savings. This is a bold step forward.
Jagmeet Singh announced more details of his Pharmacare plan today. He also apologized to New Brunswickers for waiting so long to visit the province. This was Singh's first visit since becoming leader of the New Democrats. He was in Bathurst, where he also introduced a new candidate. He then moved over to Halifax, Nova Scotia, where he held a town hall on health care. The CBC's Ashley Burke has more for us. Ashley?
Vashi, it's the first day the NDP's plane is in the sky. The cash-strapped party waited until day 12 of the campaign as a way to save money. Now today, Jagmeet Singh visited New Brunswick for the first time since becoming leader almost 2 years ago. And that's been a problem for him. He's faced criticism and today questions from media about what took him so long.
I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that I didn't get here earlier. I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be here. It's a beautiful place. Well, I would say, so there's no question about it. I've not made any excuse. I've just unequivocally said, my bad. But I can tell people of New Brunswick, if they want someone that's in it for them, let's look at the policies and look at what we're proposing.
People at the event I spoke to said they forgive Singh, but wish that he had come sooner. But what struck me is that some of these undecided voters there didn't know anything about Singh, but showed up because they were curious about him. Now, it's really an uphill battle for the NDP in New Brunswick. They're polling fourth, and last month there were a number of provincial NDP candidates who threw their support behind the Greens, saying that there was no path to victory for the party here. Now, it's taken the party up until today to find people to run in all 10 ridings. Singh announced that last candidate this morning, and then he took off for Halifax to hold a town hall about health care, and that's where I am right now, getting ready for it to start, and where the party might have a better shot. Vashi?
Thanks, Ashley. That's Ashley Burke reporting on the NDP campaign for us this week. Conservative leader Andrew Scheer, meanwhile, pitched his plan today to make home buying more affordable.
In communities across the country, both urban and rural, the cost of living is so high that it's become almost impossible to save for a down payment.
Scheer announced a 4-point plan he says will make it easier to buy a home. He made the announcement in Woodbridge, Ontario. Later, he stopped in Markham to visit a senior's home. He's also hosting a campaign event there. The CBC's Evan Dyer has more for us. Evan?
Actually, everyone's talking about housing affordability in this election. We saw the Liberals roll out their first-time homebuyers plan. Today it was the Conservatives here in Vaughan in suburban Toronto making their own pitch, which includes a proposal to roll back one of the changes made by the previous Conservative government in response to the 2008 financial crisis. Now, when that crash happened, of course, it was unsecured, unstable mortgage lending in the States. Canada was more insulated, but Finance Minister Jim Flaherty, the Conservative minister at the time, wanted to make it even safer, and one of the changes he made was to reduce the maximum amortization period of a mortgage. So where prior to 2008 you could take out a mortgage for 30, 35, even in some cases 40 years, Jim Flaherty's put a 25-year cap on any mortgage. Longer than that and you could not insure it. Andrew Scheer says he would roll that back. He would permit 30-year mortgages again, but only in the case of first-time buyers. Now, when the Liberals came to power, Bill Morneau brought in an additional safeguard for the Canadian financial system, which we call the stress test. And the stress test is where a mortgage applicant must prove that they have enough liquidity, not only to make the payments as interest rates stand now, but that they could continue to make the repayments if interest rates were to rise. The Conservatives don't want to scrap the stress test altogether, but Andrew Scheer does say that it's too restrictive, that it's driving home buyers to unregulated lenders rather than banks, in some cases driving young people out of the housing market altogether. The Conservatives, he said, would look at the stress test and make it less restrictive. The last issue the Liberals have tried to address is foreign ownership of Canadian homes for speculative purposes. And we've seen already attacks in BC targeting foreign buyers who don't intend to live in the homes they buy. The Trudeau government has said that if re-elected, it would take that tax nationwide. What the Conservatives are proposing is somewhat different. Andrew Scheer wants to investigate what he calls money laundering in the real estate market. He's suggesting he does believe a lot of that is coming from offshore sources, similar to the speculators targeted by the Liberals. But there's no word yet on where that investigation might lead, what policies, actions, or even taxes it might lead to. So what we're seeing are some rather different proposals around housing, but both of them targeting very much the same kind of voters, young people looking to buy their first home and wondering how they're ever going to be able to do it. Vashi.
Thanks, Evan. The CBC's Evan Dyer reporting on the Conservative campaign this week. Green Party leader Elizabeth May targeted mental health today.
This is the election to make mental health a key election issue, to demand of all parties that they make firm commitments that we can track and follow up and insist upon after the election is over.
May says the Greens would expand mental health and rehabilitation services if elected. She made that announcement in Fredericton before stopping over in Moncton and then finishing the day in PEI in Charlottetown. Finally, People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier spent the day in his Quebec riding where he participated in a debate hosted by the Chamber of Commerce. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.